All right.
It looked like it's limping on its back leg.
Good evening. We're going to call the meeting of the Sanborn Regional School Board to order.
And I will call the Sanborn Budget Committee meeting to order at 6:02.
Yep. All right, we'll stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Fabulous. Okay. So for the school board, we have everyone with the exception of Ken in attendance. Ken has been excused. He is out of town for work.
For the Budget Committee, Brooks is excused. He is sick. And Dan may be a little bit late today for other town business.
Perfect. All right. Looks like you're first if you want.
Budget Committee meeting minutes from our last meeting. I sent them out. Does anybody have any comments?
Move to approve.
We have one adjustment.
Yes, I saw that Dan Guide was.
Okay.
I
I will message Summer. Have that fixed. So Amanda's the vice chair, so we change that with that one edit.
Did you still want your motion with the edit?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
I'll second her.
Yeah. All in favor.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, so 5-0 on that. And Dawn.
All right. So for the school board minutes, do I have any action for the October 2nd, 2024 and the October 9th, 2024 minutes? Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? All right, unanimous. So 6-0. Thank you. All right. So I'm finishing up signing the manifest documents for the school board. I will send those around in a minute. Tom, do you have any nominations, resignations?
See. One.
I think there's a nomination. I don't think there's any resignations.
I would like to nominate Leslie Scarzaloni for the business teacher at the high school.
Make a motion to accept.
Second. All right, all in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Right, superintendent's report.
I'll forego a report because I'm presenting the budget this evening.
Okay, first public comment. Anyone would like to speak? The microphone is open. All right. Okay, so the student presentation on SST programs, unfortunately, is not going to happen tonight. They're out sick, so we're going to skip 7.1 and we'll move right to 7.2, superintendent's presentation, budget recommendations. I'm going to move.
Yeah.
Your dongle, Tom.
Gordon to the rescue.
Yeah.
Gordon to the rescue.
Gordon's.
I don't Oh, yeah.
That's better.
And away. Yeah.
Okay. I just like to be polite.
And I'm Heather's support for on call. So if she leaves, I
have a small bladder.
Plug in. It's on TV.
You're on 10? I still palms. How's that?
How can you forget? Signing.
The signing. You'd think by now I'd remember.
You have a pen more. Oh, look at you.
I know, Oh.
Dr. Amber. Yes, you can get your presentation up. I guess we'll just. Be terrible.
I have.
Terrible.
Good thing we planned ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I only do.
Like it's just so much.
Yeah, like I'm missing my assistant.
There we go. There we go.
I saw that. And I was like.
I wanted to meet.
Check. It's pictures.
Matt's going to do the, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us for the initial presentation of the 2025-26 budget. Want to thank the BudCom members for joining us, and we'll get right to this. It's a pretty similar format as what we've used in the past. So I'll have Mr. Malilla will start. Our core beliefs as a district, we believe in supporting the continuous improvement of student learning. We're constantly assessing our effectiveness, revising, trying again, and improving. We believe that we need to have an aligned curriculum K-12. We have made significant progress on that front under the leadership of Christine DeRocher. Teachers have developed understanding by design units for all core areas. We've adopted a fantastic math program and an incredible reading program for our K-5 students. And we've adopted a math program for K through 12. Very excited at our third grade math scores last. Over 70% of our students performed at or above grade level on statewide assessments. So I can't thank everyone enough for all the hard work that they did on that. We believe in the continuous improvement of instruction. That means that we talk regularly about teaching and learning, data, and what to do differently based on the needs of our students. And we believe in a culture of excellence focused on student achievement for the whole child. We believe that students need to be engaged in school. That means that sports are important, arts and music and everything that they do are just as important to keep them engaged in school and excited about being here. Go to the next slide. So our current initiatives, as I said, we're working to improve our instruction. We're doing that through professional learning communities, which is meetings of teachers who discuss their practice, particularly curriculum alignment, assessment, instructional practices, and the data and needs of the students. We are working hard to enhance our special education programming and training and to continue the academic and behavioral intervention programs. We are in the third year of our Reveal Math program, and we are very excited to see what happens over the next few years as those students progress up through the curriculum. We're in the second year of Amplify, which is our reading program known as CKLA, Content, Knowledge, Language Arts. Very excited to be in year 2 and looking forward to years 3 and 4 when the implementation process is complete. This year, this month, and early next month, we will finish our decennial visit for our NEASC accreditation, which is a major 3-year project. And I just wanted to thank Christine DeRocher, Bob Dawson, and Jen Mitchison for all their hard work on that, and all the teachers that have done tremendous work creating curriculum documents and participating in this rigorous and challenging process. We are continuing to focus on student achievement in math and reading in almost every conversation that we have. Have the next slide. So the first thing that we do when we make a budget is we look at our enrollments. Right now, our enrollments have gone down. Last year, all schools in the lower right-hand corner, we had 1,217 students. And projected for October of 25, we have 1,202. Next year is the last year that we will have the Fremont freshmen. So next year is the year before we start to have Fremont students leave, and I'll talk about that more in a moment. If you'll notice, the Bakey School, we currently have 75 and 72 students in the 3 grades. That is very tricky because We've had a significant number of students participate in the charter schools, and we're concerned that some of them are going to come back. So we're right on that threshold of being able to reduce in that area. But I'm going to recommend holding for one more year because it's highly likely that we're going to receive students back from the charter schools, and we just want to make sure that that dust on all that settles before we make decisions about staffing. I'll talk about the class placements and the enrollments later, but I do want to note that enrollments are down. So the Bakey School has 253 students. Just a few years ago, it had 340. The Memorial School has 249. Just a few years ago, it had 280. The middle school is at 246, and the high school is at 454. The total enrollment of 1,202 students for next fall is almost 450 students lower than when I started as superintendent 8 years ago. That is a trend that is common in New Hampshire, and I'll be talking a lot about that in this presentation. Go to the next slide. The future. Fremont students will leave the district in June of 2029. The reductions of students and revenues will begin in the 26-27 school year. That's when we create next year's budget. So it's for the budget for the following year. But we're starting to plan for this because through that process, we're going to have to make reductions of staff and have conversations about the future of the district and the layout of the district as those students leave the district. Here's the enrollment data for the high school. In 2017 and 18, we had about 650 students in the high school. It went up a little bit in 18-19, and you can see across the grid that it's steadily declining, which is congruent with the state of New Hampshire, which has lost a significant number of students over the last 7 or 8 years. This slide is kind of a look back, that back in 2017 and 18, when we did the NASDAQ study, those studies are complex and they're based on things like future projections of housing, people moving in, economies, and live births, the number of students born in a community. And oftentimes they can be a little bit erratic, but this one has shown to be almost perfectly true. You can see in the right-hand corner that between 2026 and 2030, the high school at the end, if the current enrollments stay the same and we don't attract more students or have people move in, we'll be at 300 students at the high school at the end of that process. I know that seems far away, but it's literally one cohort of freshmen. It's one 5-year cycle away. So it's not far. We have to start talking about it now, and these are not easy conversations. So I just want everyone to be prepared and to understand that this is starting today. So here's the big question. Why do costs go up when enrollments are going down? And why does the cost per pupil keep increasing? I've heard this question over and over again, so I thought it was time to just talk about it. Well, it's like this. My son went to college last year. I don't know if you all know my older son. His name's Noah. He's a freshman. And he went to college last year, and in my house, that left 3 people behind. 25% of our family left. But the cost to run our household stayed pretty much the same, aside from a tremendous amount of food that was consumed by a 19-year-old teenager. He eats a lot. The other one, I don't think he eats. So we noticed our grocery bills changed, but our heat, electricity, oil, propane, all the different pieces, all pretty much stayed the same. But we had 3 people living in the house. Well, that's what plays out in a school. When you have 100 students in first grade and you have 5 teachers, you have 20 students per class. But when you lose 20 students, you go to 17 students per class. You're not really low enough to reduce a teacher, but you're not high enough. The cost per pupil has gone up 20%. And that's what happens. That's why the cost per pupil is going up, even though our enrollments are going down. We're right on the cusp of needing to do another round of making reductions. And probably over the next few years, when Fremont leaves at the high school level in particular, we're going to have to make reductions. But we're going to talk about Bakey and Memorial this evening as well. I think it's important for everyone to understand that district-wide costs go up disproportionately to the consumer price index. So if CPI right now is 3%, we spend over $6 million on health insurance. Our health insurance last 2 days ago came in at 15%. So the cost per pupil for health insurance just went up exponentially. You have students leaving, but you still have staff, and the health insurance went up 15%. There's nothing we can do about that. So there's 3 major factors that influence the enrollment. Number 1 is the natural decline of the number of students in New Hampshire. Number 2 is Fremont leaving the district. And number 3 is other school choices such as charter schools and private schools. So I wanted to share the slide with everyone so that they can understand how hard you as a BudCom and the board have worked to manage these changes over time. In 2017 and 18, when I was hired and we did the NASDAQ study, we had 1,650, roughly 1,650 students. And the budget was $34,270,000 roughly. This year, the adopted budget was $40,222,033, which includes all professional support staff contracts that were voted on by the communities, which means that our delta change was $5,952,000 roughly, or 2.3% per year. We all know that inflation has not been at 2.3%. If inflation was just at 5%, which is on the low side, considering that we have to manage oil, contracts, in all the different pieces that go up organically, like the health insurance, we'd be at $48,221,000 this year, which is an increase of $13 million. So the point of this is that if we had not been fiscally responsible, where we would be today is at that $48,221,336. Next slide. So the realized savings of our hard work is almost $8 million this year to the two communities. The rental income from the former middle school is over $200,000. There has been $1.5 million in renovations and improvements to the former middle school that has been paid for by the tenants. The sale of the Sanborn Seminary brought in another $200,000. And every year that we've worked together as a community and a team, we've returned almost $1 million, except for, I think, 1 year in 8 years. It's important to recognize that this is a team effort to make this happen. It's not easy. And we're going to have a lot of difficult decisions to make in the next 4 years. So I'm starting the process this evening. And if you could go to the next slide, you can see this on the budget history. The actual growth that we've had in our budget for the last 7 years is in blue. The yellow is what it would be if we had just done CPI, roughly 3.5%. And the red is what it would have been if it was at 5%. So we're doing great work, but it's challenging work. And it means that we're going to have difficult conversations. And some of those difficult conversations are going to start this evening. Can I have the next slide? Let's talk about the default budget. The default budget is a pretty straight ahead calculation. You take this year's budget, follow the law, you reduce it by one-time expenditures and by salaries and benefits and positions that were eliminated. And you got to look at debt service contracts and other obligations. It's all there on the slide. It's all based on RSA. Go to the next slide. So this year, our adopted budget at the poll was $39,444,569. And then the professional staff collective bargaining agreement passed, and that was $777,464 for a total that you saw before, $40,222.33. All right, so this slide shows you what the change is for this year. Exactly what we said would happen happened. The teacher's contract passed. That's the first line. Then the special education services went up almost 1.2 million, and over 656,000 of that is just for out-of-district placements. I think it's 3 students. We have vocational costs that had to be included, transportation, student information systems, Primex, and other. And I just want to make sure everyone knows in that initial number of 1,114,000, that includes the health insurance increase that I talked about earlier at 15%. Then we had the debt service come off for the high school. So we saved $2,311,000, but only 1.9 million of that is paid for by the local 2 communities. There was also money that came in from the state to offset that. So the real savings there with revenue included was about 1.9 million. That brings us to $120,371. I cannot tell you enough how hard everyone worked to get this default budget to be at that level. It was really challenging this year, probably the hardest we've done since I started working here. Can you go to the next? So this shows you that the default budget for next year is $40,342,404. And that does include the contracts that passed at the polls. So just like we said last year when we presented the contracts to the community, they would be offset by the the revenue that we would, or the expenditure that would come off for the debt service for the high school, that has happened. We only went up 120,000. Can we go to the next slide? The proposed operating budget, however, is lower. So what we did is we followed the process that we've always done. We looked at the enrollments that decreased by 15 since last year. We looked at inflation, which includes all of our general supplies. We looked at the salaries from the contractual obligations and things that were voted on by the public. We talked about what we needed to improve academics. We talked about the increased special education costs. We talked about insurance costs and transportation. The most important thing that we talk about every day is the students. What do the students need to be successful, and what do we need to do for the improving academics? That's the first question that we ask in every budget. So we reviewed the enrollments, and then we look at the enrollments and look at our staffing needs to meet the needs of the number of students that we have. We review class sizes, and then we analyze the necessary number of unified art classes, such as art, music, PE, library, etc. We consider the necessary supplies for each course. We review the technology needs, such as computers, printing, and network. And then we consider other costs. This is important because transportation, healthcare, special education, athletics, and facilities maintenance are all things that are very, very important, but they're also very driven by external factors. So transportation has been really tricky too. Then we considered the reserve accounts. What do we need in reserve accounts for next year? So this is what we're proposing. Based on the projected enrollments, the staffing that we need for Memorial and Bakey, we're going to move one classroom teacher from Bakey to Memorial. When we looked at the numbers initially, fourth grade had about 22 in a class, and second grade had about 14 in a class. We moved a teacher up to Memorial to make that fourth grade group go down to about 18. And then we moved the pre-K, the second grade group, lost a teacher there, but that put them at 17. And we felt like that was a nice balance that without adding to the budget. We talked about the specialists classes at the elementary level. We have never changed those except for reducing a music position a number of years ago. And our enrollments have gone down significantly. So we're recommending that we not fill one art teacher, one physical education teacher, one library teacher, and one STEAM teacher. And we want to be clear that the changing to staffing do not change the required programs at Bakey and Memorial. And the unified art staff will be shared between the two buildings. I'll show you that in just a moment. There are some enrichment classes and other activities that are currently being offered that we can't offer, but they're not required by the state to meet the needs of the programming for K-5. Can we go to the next slide? So this is what it will look like. I could use any discipline. I'll choose music because it's the one that I'm trained in. The teacher would have prep in the morning from 8 to 8:45. They would teach fifth grade for the first hour, fourth grade for the second hour, third grade for the third hour. Those are 50-minute classes with time to transition in between the classes. Then they would have lunch and travel to the other building and teach second, first, and kindergarten in the same manner. So we can do this and cover all 14 classes that need to be covered at Bakey and all 14 classes that need to be covered at Memorial and still have room to add one class at each building if we had an enrollment bump. We go to the next slide. At the middle and high school, we're recommending that the district not fill one music teacher. We have a retirement this year, and a technology education teacher because we have a retirement there as well. We already have not filled for this year the director of guidance position. We decided that we could cover that because we know that we're going to have to make reductions in the future anyway. So when the person retired, we decided to cover that with our current administration, and we will be reducing one administrative assistant. We aren't quite sure who that will be yet. We're still working on that. I want to make sure we're being completely transparent. The music teacher reduction does eliminate general music from grades 6 through 12, but does not eliminate the band or chorus programs. Principal Mitchison is going to meet with the 4 remaining music teachers and discuss the programming and figure out how to meet the needs of the programming. This reduction does not change the band program or the class offerings at Bakey or Memorial. Does not change them. Reductions will be based on retirements or attrition first, but reductions in force will be necessary. And frankly, reductions in force, it's hard to say, and I don't love this at all, but the reality is we have declining enrollments and we're going to have to lay off staff as we continue to meet the challenges that are before us in the future. We'll do it as much as we can with retirements and attrition. In this instance, we're going to have to have some a reduction in force in a few areas. So other considerations. This budget does include an increase of $90,000 for staff laptops, student Chromebooks, projectors, student iPads, etc. Gordon has spent the last 4 years using the capital reserve fund that's funded by the revenue that we receive from renting the former middle school and money from the ESSER grants. The ESSER grants are gone now, so we have to budget for technology moving forward. We also put in $270,000 per year for facilities, and that's broken out equally among the 3 facilities. I know this building is wonderful and beautiful, but it is 20 years old. We're starting to have problems with the boilers. Bakey needs a new fire panel. I met with the chief of fire in Kingston recently, and he mentioned it, asked me what the plan was. We have to fix the water storage tank at this building. That might happen this year. It's not doing well. Bakey doesn't, they have pneumatic controls for heating. They're old school, just thermostats that you turn up and down. They're incredibly inefficient. They should be digitized. Heat pumps at Memorial are residential grade and they're older. We need to assess that and figure out the plan. And don't forget that Memorial has 2 portable buildings, one unattached and one attached. All of these things are in the mix in the capital improvement plan that our Facilities and Finance Committee is working very hard to get done. And they are also looking at some options to have a full-blown energy audit to help us move forward. So we're working really hard on this as a group. Did you want to say something, Rick?
Okay.
Yeah.
I just want a point of clarification. The water tank, you said it's not doing well. It's preventive maintenance that we're doing.
Oh, thank you.
Nothing wrong with the water.
Oh, no, the water is perfectly fine. Yes. Thank you, Rick. I appreciate that very much. And thanks for speaking up because it is totally fine. And it is preventative maintenance, but it needs to be addressed is what I was implying. Thank you very much. Next slide. Thanks. So this is the current adopted budget of $40,222,033. The original default budget calculation was $39,447,885 last year. This year, the default budget is $40,342,404, which is up 0.3%. But the budget that we're presenting to you is down 0.55%, 0.5%, $39,997,456. I think it's important to remember that the $40,222,000 includes the CBA, as does the proposed budget for next year. That's really important because the voters voted on that. And I just wanted everyone to hear that my gratitude personally for passing the CBA because it has made a significant difference in our hiring. Significant. We are doing way better with hiring because of the CBA. The change in salaries, it worked. And so we are incredibly grateful. Slide. So this is kind of like the good news. The tax rate based on what we're proposing would go down in Newton by $415 for a $500,000 home. And it should go down in Kingston as well, about $535. But it's super important to recognize that this is, oh, I'm sorry, did I get them backwards? Oh, I'm sorry. For Newton, it's $415 for the default and $535 for the operating. In Kingston, it goes up by $130 and then $30 for the proposed. I apologize. This is based on the tax rate being set, and it's tricky because this time of year, all the paperwork isn't always in. All right. Thank you for catching that, Matt. So next steps. We kind of thought that it would be good. We had so much success last year with everyone getting together and talking. I like to lovingly call it budget speed dating, but we can call it budget speed questions if that's more comfortable. So next Wednesday, if you could go through your budget book this weekend, write down your questions. Next Wednesday, we're going to pair up a board member and a BudCom member, and they'll have an opportunity to sit down with the Bakey School, the Memorial School, middle and high, me with Christine, facilities, special education, and you'll have time to talk with each group for 15 minutes. Our hope really is that you'll ask your questions then so that we don't have to answer 150 to 230 individual questions in writing. That's a very cumbersome process to answer those individually. However, we want to make sure that we get you the information that you need. So we're hoping that you'll ask the questions that night. And what we're going to do this year is we're going to have 15 minutes after the speed question rounds, so that if you need to follow up with someone to get more clarification, you'll have 15 minutes to just go around and talk to anyone that you needed more clarification on. We just really want to have like an open conversation. We'll get some good cookies, we'll have some coffee, and we'll just try to get as much answered as we possibly can. Then what will happen is, if you could go to the next slide, if you have further questions that need to be answered in writing, please submit them to the Bud Committee Chair by November 15th. Courtney, would you like those by noon on the 15th? When would you like them on the 15th? You want to just email everyone? We need a deadline, whatever you want it to be. Yep. Okay, so we'll do noon on the 15th and for the BudCom, and then the board, the business administrators traditionally ask for 5 p.m. on the 15th. Would you like noon as well, Matt? Okay, so 5 p.m. on the 15th for the board. And I just want to make sure that everyone understands that what we'll do after that is we'll write the answers and then we'll send them to you in a document so that you can read them. And if you have further up questions, just give us a call. We're always here to help you, but we're trying to make the time that we have in the evening together as efficient as possible. And so we look forward to working with you collaboratively through this process. And I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of questions, ideas, and creative thinking. And anytime that someone wants to call me and talk to me, always just let me know. I'm happy to talk to you. And that concludes the presentation. I just want to thank you all very much for your time this evening.
If anybody would like a copy of the slide presentation, I have 20 copies. There also are some hard copies of the budget book. As you can imagine, it's a large document. So if I've got some copies, which I can pass out, but if anybody would like one, let me know. The electronic copy for the school board and BudCom will be shared with you shortly. It's ready to be uploaded to the shared drive.
Do you have those hard copies now or?
Yeah. Yeah, they're here. Yeah, they're right behind me.
Hard copy.
Like you guys are off the hook if you want to adjourn, you're all set.
All right, I do have, sorry, I don't know if I'm, quick question. I know that we broke up the groups on we're gonna meet with. As the unified arts are gonna be impacted the most, which in that group?
Oh, Bakey principal and Memorial principal, and then Christine and I.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Thank you for that. All right, so, we do second comment now or we end first?
It's up to you. It's on.
Are you guys gonna allow any like general questions? Like right now about
Normally we don't
about the
get-
presentation? I didn't want to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
just they're super general.
Yeah, I think it's important to be careful because we don't typically take questions this evening.
Okay.
Normally it's just a presentation.
I don't remember. I know it's my third year. I just don't
So
remember.
it's okay. Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay.
It's
thanks.
just your third
Give me
year.
a
Come
call
on,
then.
I
Dan.
know, right?
You got a few more years before you remember it all.
Yeah.
Don, I'd like to make a motion. Second, public comment up in case.
That's
people
fine.
here that
Yeah.
have to leave.
Absolutely.
I don't know if we need a motion or.
Second.
Second.
Yeah, there's a second.
Honestly, it's just a general, if everybody's okay with it, we can do it. We don't
Okay.
need to.
That way,
All right, so second public comment, if anyone would like to step up to the microphone, just state your name, your town or position at the district, or if you're a parent of a child in the district, and we have a 3-minute time frame. And my dog's calling.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Yulee. I am a resident of Newton, New Hampshire. I reside there with my husband and twin daughters, Sophia and Lily. I also currently am employed with the district. I was originally a substitute. Now I'm a para. And I work full time there. And I just wanted to go and make a couple of comments about what was proposed this evening. First and foremost, I just wanted to ask where the money for the UA staff was going to be relocated. I know, actually, I can't ask that question. You weren't going to take questions, right? I apologize. I would take that back. Unified teachers are an integral part of our school community. UA teachers are not only passionate about their teaching, they offer enrichment programs for students at recess time, special times for adaptive UAs, for our students with cognitive disabilities, work lunch duty, bus duty, and interact throughout the school day, making personal connections. If we take away those times for the UAs to connect with our students, the whole community will suffer, and more especially the kids. Many students that we have don't excel in academics. However, they do thrive in our UA classrooms. This builds their confidence. They become close to and often confide in their UA teachers in a different way than their academic teachers. I've seen this firsthand. I'm so sorry. UA teachers are great role models and mentors for our students. This proposal for one UA teacher for 2 schools is a clear setup for failure and burnout, I'm sorry to say, which will result in a revolving door for these positions. This will not only negatively impact our students, but staff's morale as well. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, sure, sure. I think Micah just asked me to make a comment to clarify the process. So no decisions have been made at this point. There's a proposal for a budget. And then what happens is the budget goes to the board and the BudCom. We go through the question and answer process. And thank you, Jen, for your comments, because that's the information that the board and BudCom need to know before they deliberate. And then the board and BudCom, the board adopts a budget. They may add, subtract, or change this budget significantly. It's out of my hands now. It's gone to them. And then the board sends that budget to the BudCom. And then the BudCom may add, subtract, or change the amount of money, but they don't make decisions about the programming. They just recommend an amount. So they're a check and balance to the budget process. They can make a recommendation to the board about the programming, but they can't actually modify the programming. So then if they change the budget, it goes back to the board and it goes back and forth. And usually we have a pretty good process where we end up at a budget at the end. So I just want to go on record and say clearly that I do not like what we've had to present this evening in terms of these classes, but we have to have some very difficult conversations over the next 4 years about what we're going to do for programming when we lose $3.8 million in funding over 4 years. It's the truth. I'm sorry. I don't like it. My wife's a music teacher. I have a degree in music. I love the arts, but I need a certain number of classes to run the program. And as a superintendent, I have to put away my personal feelings and give everyone what I believe we need to run the program. If we want to do more and the board and BudCom chooses to give it back to us, I will be super grateful. Thank you. But I can't sit here and say that I have to ask the community to give me $550,000 in funding when I don't have the enrollments to support the funding. So it's a question of transparency. I'm transparently saying this is the number of teaching positions that we need to fill these roles based on the requirements from the state. I love having more. I love enrichment. I love having adaptive UAs. I love having the teachers out with the kids. It's great, but it's not required. And so I'm acknowledging Jen's point openly, and the administration and I did not enjoy, we're not going to enjoy this every year for 4 or 5 years when we have to come forward and make cuts, but that's the reality of what we have to do. So I just want you all to hear that because we really care. This is not easy. Thank you.
All right. All right, that's the end of the public comments. I will adjourn the budget committee meeting and let the school board continue. And it is.
Ms. Hewitt, just so you know, I did email a link to the documents you need to the BudCom committee. So everybody's got it in their school, their in the shared drive, but there's a link to their email.
Perfect. Thank you, Matt. All right, I will see everyone next week. And end time is 6:43.
They can listen, but I'll explain.
I just.
No, we should. Yep. Would recommend coming to the next one after this one.
Yes. Hey, back to my seat.
Yeah, sure it was. All right. So the student council representative report is not going to happen tonight. She's been excused because she is actually at a student council field trip. So that's
Oh, fantastic.
fabulous.
We'll ask her to come back in December.
Yes, absolutely. So do I have any committee reports tonight? Any subcommittee reports? Jeremiah?
Yes, the Facilities and Finance Subcommittee met this evening. We discussed many things from some budget items to some current updates to our facilities that are currently either in progress or just completed. We got updates on those. Also some future projects that we're looking at that have been revealed, which is always fun. Some great work by Mr. Doyle, getting some grants secured for the district for water filtration. That was fantastic. And last but not least, we reviewed the capital improvement plan. We've been really refining that over the past few months in preparation for bringing that to the broader board for further discussion, refinement, and then approval. And that's all.
Great.
How
thank
much
you.
did Dan get for a grant?
$30,000.
Nice.
Thank you.
That's fabulous.
Thank you, Dan.
All right. Do I have?
Jeremiah, we're looking at bringing the CIP to the board in December, right?
Correct.
That's the plan.
That is
Yep.
correct. Yep.
Yep, we'll have that for you. Okay.
Fabulous.
Yeah. Thank you for clarifying that. Yep.
Great. Any other subcommittee reports? All right. So on to old business, school board goals 24-25.
I would recommend that we kind of just worked on those goals. The whole evening was about that. If
Yep.
everyone's good, I didn't feel like I should do another update, but I knew that we had agreed to leave it on the agenda. I did want to say that, as I mentioned, just to point out, the NEASC accreditation is a significant amount of work, and that is happening right now. And Christine is doing a fabulous job with Jen and Bob. So we're cooking on the goals.
Yep. And Micah and I are going to schedule the time. Go meet with the NEAS committee because they've requested that we meet with them. So we're working on getting that scheduled. And then I also am waiting for, but one of the goals is to increase the early college and dual enrollment opportunities. And I have the MOU being sent to me so I can review what we currently have for an MOU with NECC and see what it looks like so we can see how we expand on that. Gives us the option, or if we need to look at, negotiating something different to expand that. So, and you guys have already talked about the capital improvement plan. So I think we're good.
A lot of good work.
So
going on
yeah,
by
lots of good stuff going on.
Brief question is, do we have a timeline on the NEASC? Is it a rough?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're coming at the end of November for the decennial visit.
December,
That's really the end. Like,
December
Fantastic.
2nd.
Okay.
Yeah, December 2nd is when that's like one of the last days of it. And that's when Mike and I go meet. It's very, very fast. It's coming up
It's a
very
very
quickly.
long.
No, I mean, I think you've been working on it.
Oh, it's like, what, 2 years?
Oh,
Now
3
years. Yeah.
Yeah, 3, yeah.
It's,
That's right,
it
it's
actually,
closer to
it started earlier, but the pandemic slowed it. So we got a waiver for a couple of years. It's just been an ongoing process. I'm so grateful for all the hard work of everyone, and I'm really looking forward to getting this done. It'll be nice to have it, but it's also going to be great to keep focusing on the teaching of math and reading. That's,
Great. Thank you.
All right. So next Sanborn Regional School Board meeting will be a joint meeting with the Budget Committee on Wednesday, November 13th, 2024 at 6 p.m. in the library at the Sanborn Regional High School. And if someone would like to call us into non-public, we can move on to that.
I make a motion to move us into non-public RSA 91-A, semicolon 3, Roman numeral 2, BCK.
Second.
Fabulous. All right, roll call in. Rick,
Yes.
Jeremiah.
Yes.
Heather.
Yes.
Maura. Micah.
Yes.
And myself, yes. Fabulous. All right.
Phyllis, this should not be long unless.
Yeah, unless I.